Welcome to Forward Thinking. I'm Deepak Jobanputra, Vitality's Chief Sustainability Officer.
And I'm Kate Anderson, a Sustainability Actuary here at Vitality.
Thanks so much for joining us today for part one of our new and very special series. Over the course of the next 3 webinars, we're going to cover what sustainability is, how it links to health and life insurance, and what it means for you and your business. Kate and I will give you a brief introduction, and then we'll be joined by a panel of experts to delve into the topic in more detail and answer your questions. So please do share your comments in the chat. But before we start, I'd like to hand over to our Group CEO, Neville Kuprowicz.
Our core purpose is to make people healthier and enhance and protect their lives. And we do this through our unique shared value model. We're very proud of the impact that we have on society through our core purpose. And alongside this, one of our founding values is to be a force for social good. This value aligns beautifully with the role that businesses can play in the area of sustainability. You'll hear from Deepak Jobanputra, Vitality's Chief Sustainability Officer, on what sustainability means for consumers, business, and society, and the role that we can all play in making the world a better place. We have curated a number of prominent speakers for this webinar series that include speakers from the United Nations, leading global reinsurers and distribution experts to give you the broad exposure to this important topic. I urge you to engage in these webinars and to ask those difficult and challenging questions to elicit good debate that will help us jointly drive action, whether it be in the area of climate change, social impact, and long-term resilience. As advisors, you play a critical role in influencing your clients and provide insurance benefits that allows them to lead their best lives. I really hope you enjoy the content and take some great learnings from them. Thank you again.
Today, we're focusing on sustainability and what it means for you as health and protection advisors. We want to support you with integrating sustainability in a structured and simple way to your clients. This is especially important now, given the changing world and geopolitical stance around sustainability. We'll address these topics over the next 10 minutes before heading into a live discussion with our panel of experts. So please remember to get your thoughts and comments in the chat. It's really important. What do we mean by sustainability? Well, it's more than just about climate change, though that's a really big part of it. The United Nations defines sustainability simply as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And this is so important for so many reasons. We're currently using 1.7 times the Earth's resources each year. Now imagine if we did that with our income. We'd be in trouble really very quickly. Well, we're doing the same with the Earth's natural resources. And we'll explore some of the effects that this could bring.
Now, a great way to understand sustainability is through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs. There are 17 of these goals, aimed at creating a sustainable future for everyone, and provides a great framework for businesses to work towards. In recent years, businesses have evolved from corporate social responsibility to putting societal needs at the centre of their business model to create value. Now, businesses are expected not only to make money, but to also contribute positively to society, and these businesses will be much stronger for it and more sustainable in the long run.
So the choice is not sustainability or business, but importantly, sustainability and business. At Vitality, sustainability has been embedded into our core purpose and business model since the very beginning. Our shared value model offers more sustainable insurance by preventing health risks and improving outcomes for society. A healthy environment is fundamental to enabling good health. We play a role as a force for good as part of our core purpose to make people healthier and enhance and protect their lives. This helps mitigate, for example, the burden on national health systems, and through the delivery of virtual healthcare helps reduce carbon emissions.
Now, we all know climate change is an urgent issue, and this realisation has become widely recognised socially. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, an annual survey that provides insights into public trust, 93% of people believe it poses a serious threat to our existence. Climate change started with what's known as the Great Acceleration. This is when industrialisation and globalisation increased during the 1850s, leading to increased greenhouse gas emissions fueled by economic growth. The Show Your Stripes graphic visually represents how the Earth's temperature has increased over time. We experienced the hottest year on record in 2024. Planetary boundaries are limits to keep our planet safe and stable. As you can see, we've already crossed 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries, and crossing them hasn't happened overnight. We didn't know until it was too late. Some of these effects are irreversible and increase the risk to people and the ecosystems that we're a part of.
For example, climate change is impacting our health. Clear evidence shows that it is leading to increased heat-related illnesses, heart and lung diseases, and mental health issues. The impact of this on the health of future generations could be devastating and made worse by the increased pressure on health systems. The World Health Organization estimates that between 2030 and 2050, climate change is expected to cause approximately 250,000 additional deaths per year from undernutrition, malaria, diarrhea, and heat stress alone. From an industry point of view, higher death rates and increased health issues will impact the insurance market, potentially increasing protection gaps, which is a real issue. The link between good health and well-being and climate change are clearly highlighted in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The issues and solutions for each of these are absolutely interconnected.
There are actions that we can take today which will protect future generations, your children, your grandchildren, and beyond. This is why it's important for all people to be aware and educated on the topic. Everyone wins or everyone loses. Ultimately, sustainability issues are all interconnected and cannot be solved in isolation. For example, we can't all stop using fossil fuels tomorrow. If we did, the world would fall apart. Industries would fold and cause devastating effects. We can only transition towards a solution. And what's needed is collaboration and behaviour change on a large scale. Zero Waste chef Anne-Marie Bonneau put it best. We don't need a handful of people doing sustainable living perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. At Vitality, we focus on good health and well-being through the world's largest behaviour change programme linked to insurance. As humans, we have present bias, naturally discounting future consequences. We see this with health all the time. We want to eat that chocolate bar now and delay that run. But if everyone acts in their own self-interest, we deplete shared resources, leading to worse health outcomes in the long run. Everyone has a role to play, especially in the health and protection industry. The consequences of doing nothing are just too high. Collective action is crucial.
So all of this is, of course, highly relevant to us all. But what will it mean for you as advisors and our industry, you might ask? Well, sustainability is already impacting businesses, both in terms of consumer and regulatory expectations. Research from Deloitte shows that advisors are unprepared by the challenges posed around sustainability, with 41% not understanding the impact on their business. There's a real opportunity here to better support advisors in making a difference. As more clients look for businesses that reflect their values, weaving sustainability into everyday practice isn't just the right thing to do, it's a smart move. With the right support, advisors can lead the way and keep delivering meaningful, future-focused advice. Now, governments and international bodies are stepping up sustainability reporting requirements, and a trickle-down effect is expected to SMEs. For instance, many customers now expect companies to transparently disclose their environmental impact and ethical practices. And importantly, supply chains are fast evolving, such that suppliers now have to have high expectations around ESG measures of each other. For example, to have a contract with the NHS and other government bodies requires suppliers to have a carbon reduction plan, and this kicks in at a relatively low threshold. The advisor of the future, we believe, will need to incorporate sustainability into their values, culture, and operational decision making to make their advice more relevant, trusted, and valued. This is why we believe that sustainability will become a license to operate and thrive, not just globally, but more locally within the health and protection industry. There's growing pressure from all sides. Governments and regulators are now setting new expectations, while consumers and society are raising their voices too. Together, this creates a powerful shift that could open up new opportunities for businesses to strengthen their brand, build loyalty, and attract fresh interest. So let's work together to create a sustainable future by using insurance as a force for good. There's a real opportunity to grow trust with consumers by explaining the relevance of sustainability across life and health insurance. This will help close protection gaps and build a more resilient society.
So to wrap up, today's session has shown just how deeply connected sustainability is to health, business, and the future of our industry. While the challenges are real, so are the opportunities. For advisors to lead with purpose, stay ahead of expectations, and make meaningful impact. Sustainability isn't about getting everything perfect, it's about making progress. And with the right support, advisors are well placed to help shape a healthier, more sustainable future for their clients and communities. Now, we're excited to keep the conversation going with our brilliant panel of experts. There's so much more to explore, so please do share your thoughts and comments below.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. So I'm Rob Harvey, advisor editor here at Vitality, and I will shortly be joined by our panel of experts who will be coming on in just a second. Morning, Deepak. Morning, Lisa.
Hi, good to see you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much for joining us today. So before we kick things off, I'm going to just throw up a poll on screen here, just to sort of gauge the level of interest amongst our attendees when it comes to sustainability. So whilst that pops up on screen there, if I can just ask our panelists just to perhaps briefly introduce yourselves, just tell our attendees today just who you are and who you work for, and just a very brief to sort of overview of your backgrounds and expertise. So Lisa, I'm going to come to you first, if I may.
Of course. Yeah, so pleasure to be here. I'm Lisa Balboa. I head up Hannover's Life and Health Digital Business Accelerator, but more crucially to this conversation, I have a real passion for innovation and insurance. So making sure that there's new products that can come to market to help close protection gaps. And I think as advisors, you have a key role to play in actually helping people to get insurance coverage. So really looking forward to today's conversation and to be with my fellow panelists to explore sustainable development and roles that you as advisors can play within that.
Great. Great to have you joining us, Lisa. Verena, I'll come to you next, please.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thanks for inviting me too. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I am Verena Kraus. I'm part of the United Nations Environmental Programme Finance Initiative, or in short, UNEP-FI. We host a number of industry networks, including the Principles for Sustainable Insurance, which aims to support insurers in integrating environmental, social, and governance-related aspects into their day-to-day business. And within that, I'm part of the UNEP-FI Nature team, and I'm coordinating and managing our working group for nature, which is about 40 insurers globally, insurers and reinsurers, and we are specifically looking into the connection between nature and the insurance sector. So absolutely excited to be here today and share some of our insights from that working group as well.
Thank you. Great to have you with us. Simon, I'll come to you next.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone today, and thanks to Vitality for organising this. It's so important to bring people together to talk about these subjects. I am the Chief Sustainability Officer at Ecologi. At Ecologi, we help businesses develop credible climate strategies. So very, very relevant to what we're talking about today. I've always been interested in the role that the private sector can play in addressing social and environmental issues. And so that's meant 20 years working in sustainability consulting. Relevant to this topic today, about 3 or 4 years ago, we created a sector protocol for financial advisors that created a framework for how they should address the climate crisis and what credibility looked like for them. So yeah, there's been a recent focus on climate strategy, but sustainability in its broadest sense has always been there as a guiding principle.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, fascinating stuff. And then last but by no means least, Deepak.
So I'll do a brief introduction. You already heard me on the video. I'm Deepak Jobanputra. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Vitality. Been with Vitality since 2007 with a background as an actuary, and I was the Managing Director of the Vitality Life business up until recently, 3 or 4 years ago, shifted into sustainability. Really passionate about making a difference in this space, and grateful for the speakers joining us today. Thanks, Rob.
Great, thank you. Yeah, well, lovely to have you all joining us. So really interesting here, just looking at, we've thrown that poll question up, just sort of asking attendees today what best describes their current approach to sustainability and the extent to which it's being discussed in client conversations. It's interesting to see a real mix of responses there. So some advisors are actively discussing it. Some currently aren't discussing it at all. Perhaps that will change at the end of this series. And then a few people sort of saying they'd like to discuss it a little bit more, but not sure how to bring it up. So I think just to kind of kick things off, you know, it's a really big topic. We've heard from that introduction there from Deepak and Kate, sort of the importance of sustainability, why it matters, why this is something that the industry should be doing more to engage in. But I just want to get a sense from each of you, kind of, you know, what does sustainability, you know, how would you kind of define sustainability? Why is it relevant? Why is this something that we should care about? Lisa, I'm going to come to you first on that. So yeah, what does sort of sustainability mean to you, and why is it? Why do you think it is relevant at this moment in time?
Yeah, great question, Rob. So I think for me, it's a slightly different angle to the climate angle or the nature-based angle you may hear from some of my fellow panelists. I think for me, it's back to what Deepak and Kate were saying. You know, sustainability and business go hand in hand. So really helping people to manage their health, helping people to manage their financial risks. So one of those components of sustainability is good health and well-being. It's one of those key goals for sustainability. And of course, there's opportunities for insurance to play a role to achieve this. And it's already playing a role. So insurance is closely linked to social impact, really getting suitable insurance into the hands of more people to help close the protection gaps they face in their daily life. So for me, I think there's a really key role around expanding insurance coverage and linking that back to sustainability. And that's what really motivates me when it comes to innovating within the insurance sector. How can we close those protection gaps for customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And Simon, I guess from your world, you know, we were sort of chatting about this the other day. You know, that kind of connection between health and sustainability is obviously really key. But I suppose in your world, that sort of think about the kind of collaboration between different industries is really important, and helping businesses to understand sort of what they can do to be a bit more sustainable, I suppose, is quite important in this context as well, Simon.
Yeah, sure. I think what's fascinating is that in the time that I've been working in sustainability over the last couple of decades, it's been called all sorts of different things, but actually what it is has not changed at all. And really encouragingly, over that time, it's moved from a very niche part of business strategy into the center of business strategy, and it's become a mainstream issue now. And we're reaching the point where I think increasingly it's acknowledged that we all rely on the ecosystem services and goodwill that a healthy environment and healthy society provide. And for me, that's what a sustainability approach means. It means looking at your business through a lens that recognizes that we can't thrive or survive in isolation. We're dependent on the services of people. We're dependent on the services of the planet. and we need to think about how we can operate in a way that preserves those things and enhances them. And that's what I've been working on for the last couple of decades, accentuating the positive so that we're helping businesses operate in a way that restores natural capital, adds social value, and also does so in a way that helps businesses deliver long-term success. This is about being a successful business by understanding those things.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the planet, it's a really high-stakes game. You know, we have to get this right in order to unlock a future where we can all thrive together.
Yeah, such an important point. And Verena, I guess kind of reflecting on your role and your background, that is a big question, but like I said, you know, how would we define sustainability? Why is this something that people tuning in today should be aware of and engaged in, particularly reflecting on some of what you're working on?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Deepak and Kate really put it quite nicely in the UN definitions already. I was lucky enough to see the video yesterday, so I'm not repeating the UN definitions. But I want to really point out there as well, it's about the balancing act between economy, social, and environment as well. And maybe to also just like shape this discussion a little bit is we have seen that this balancing act over the years hasn't really been working. And our Sir Parford the Scripter, a really renowned UK economist, actually in history, if you put it in some really good data points to say, well, produced capital per person has doubled over 20 years. Human capital rose by 30% over 20 years, but natural capital per person fell by 40%. So this balancing act is really something where we are currently failing. And also in terms of sustainability, it's a lot about talking future generations, as the UN definition mentioned. But I even want to challenge that at this stage. Are we just talking future generations? Are we already seeing, you know, the impact of climate change and nature loss materializing in societies and current generations as well? So personally, I work in the nature space, as mentioned, and for me, it really extends to living in harmony with nature, respecting, valuing, and conserving it, while also ensuring what we take is really within the capacity or the regenerative capacity of nature and is equally distributed and shared amongst all people. So sustainability is really very important as a foundation for a healthy and resilient planet, economy, and society as well. And then ultimately, I think it's everyone's responsibility, from business and individuals equally, to take these responsible and sustainable steps.
Yeah, so important. And I think you made an interesting point there that I wonder, just to follow up on. You know, we touched upon in the previous segment there around that there's an element of this where we think this is something off in the distant future. It's difficult to kind of imagine today. But as you say, actually, this is affecting us in the here and now as well. There is an impact today. It's not just something that we can ignore that's going to happen in the future. And I guess, Deepak, that from our perspective, from your perspective of Vitality, I guess that's one of the things that we're grappling with is the extent to which some of these issues are impacting us today. So on that basis, you know, for you, what does sustainability in that context mean to you, but also, you know, what we're doing at Vitality?
Yeah, so some really, really great insights there. I mean, we've already looked at the technical definition the UN has kind of framed. It's about using our resources in a responsible way so that future generations can also do the same. Now, our intent with these webinars and the series is to actually create a framework for advisors such that they can take information in a digestible and simple form, that they can have conversations with their clients and build it into their business model. Because as Paul probably kind of gave us some insights there, Rob, that, you know, it's a scary topic in some ways. You know, how do you start the conversation? How does it relate to business? And in very simple terms, it's about making the world a better place. And I think we use that quite a lot. You know, it's being a force for good and it's real world impact. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the framework of the 17 goals, is all about long-term resilience. And, you know, some of the phrases that we use, that we can only win if we all win. And COVID was a great example of that, in that, you know, if we weren't looking after everybody, actually it was going to affect everybody in a very negative way. So it's kind of leaving nobody behind. The other points that I would raise around this are that actually customers are expecting this now. We're getting more and more customers asking us, what are your sustainability credentials? And not just to big businesses, but actually, small businesses as well. And there's plenty of research that shows that some customers are prepared to pay a little bit more for sustainable products and services. And for businesses themselves, having that brand equity kind of future-proofs them. So that's what a lot of this is about. So it's kind of building into the advice process. And really importantly, it's not just about climate change, but actually it's kind of broader social impact as well. Yeah. So it's much, much broader than that.
Yeah, I think a really critical point, as you say, to think about it a little bit more broadly. And I guess, with that in mind, and I'm sort of conscious that if we were having this conversation, we were talking about financial planning and the like, then there's maybe it's slightly more advanced because of things like sort of ethical investing and this sort of thing. But Lisa, if we kind of think about this in the context of the insurance industry, and in particular, there's a real drive now for kind of like outcomes. We see that referenced quite a lot in terms of the regulation that advisors are dealing with now, ensuring good outcomes for clients and the like. But what we touched on earlier on, those sort of sustainable development goals, from your perspective, I mean, how can they be used to enhance insurance outcomes if we think about the work that our industry is doing?
Yeah, I think what's really important, there's goals that are directly, first order impact related to insurance. There's some also where, customers expect those goals to be part, as Deepak was saying, of an insurance company's operating model. So two of the goals that stand out to me, there's good health and well-being. On the life and health insurance side, a direct connection, and also the partnerships to achieve the goals. So just to unpack those, when it comes to good health and well-being, health technology is being integrated into insurance. That's a great opportunity. Of course, Vitality are a market leader in that for many, many decades now. So, there's really opportunities for this new technology to support people with preventative healthcare, but also things like early intervention. Some of the health apps that come across my radar now, it's as simple as taking the smartphone camera, putting your finger on the back of that, and it can give someone a heart health check. So they start to understand more about their heart health. Of course, then there's that follow-up with the medical profession if they need more intervention. But there's ways to really engage with value-add services that are directly relevant to what that customer needs. So loads of opportunities on good health and well-being. And then also on private and public sector cooperation. So, we can't solve this in a vacuum. We need to bring the best minds, the best companies, the best institutions together. One example I quite like here is, a partnership we have in Australia with Griffith University. So we actually went out and we researched cancer survivors. What are their needs when they're going through that cancer diagnosis? How can they get back to work? So by understanding those needs, then designing practical rehabilitation solutions, supporting their mental health, supporting them back to physical activity, and sometimes even simple things like the insurer, maybe even you as advisors, sending, in our case, hug box gift packages with things like bamboo pillowcases that can really help people. So I think as advisors, there's great opportunities really to engage with customers and claimants, whether it's partnering up, whether it's helping people with their health and well-being, making sure their family remains protected. There's definitely, for me, quite a few synergies there with those sustainable development goals and principles that there's opportunities to keep expanding and growing on. And yeah, as Deepak was saying, customers really expect these things to be a core part of what insurers and advisors as well can be offering.
Yeah, absolutely. And Simon, I suppose, thinking about that at a kind of the level of individual advice businesses, there's an opportunity, isn't there, here to turn sustainability into something that's a business advantage, not just a compliance burden. But advisors that tune in today, what kind of value will this bring to their business? What's the benefit to them at a kind of business level?
I think that's the fundamental question. We all talk about trying to make the world a better place, but businesses are driven by value propositions and decisions are based on financial benefits. And so where action isn't motivated by regulation, which for small businesses is still the majority of the time, then it has to succeed on the basis of it makes commercial sense, it delivers value to the business. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about what that value proposition is and how we can explain that to customers so that they don't see this as a compliance cost. They see this as an opportunity for business success. Fortunately, over the last 10 years, there's been loads and loads of examples of how a business can deliver long-term success by adopting a sustainability strategy. And if we just think about 3 or 4 examples, there's a lot of research about the benefits that accrue in the recruitment and retention process. So if you think of people as one of your biggest costs and one of your biggest drivers of success, it's easier to recruit good people if you have a sustainability strategy. It's easier to retain the staff that you've got with a sustainability strategy, particularly that generation that's coming through now that see this as an absolute essential in the businesses that they choose to work for. And they really are withholding their labor if they don't agree with the business's ideals and values and approach to sustainability. So that's become a real driver of both retention and recruitment. In the finance realm, we're seeing lots of opportunities to access lower cost loans, lower cost access to finance if you're demonstrating good sustainability credentials. The kind of green link loans that we've seen a lot of started off at a higher level, but they're trickling down now through to the SME tier. But as well as that, there's a lot of research around the benefits of a good sustainability strategy in exit valuation, and the absence of a sustainability strategy being one of the main reasons that M&A fails. So if you're thinking about your business and what you want to do with it in terms of exit, have a sustainability strategy because it'll make the whole process much easier and higher valuation. Again, increasingly, we're seeing the requirement for a sustainability plan as a pre-qualification criteria in bids and tenders and opportunities to achieve new sales, whether that's directly with customers or with bigger organizations. And so again, let's make sure we've got it, and then we've got access to those new opportunities, and we can win like that.
Yeah.
And then perhaps more creatively, what happens when you look at your business through the sustainability lens is that you tend to find new opportunities for innovation, both in the way that you're operating in the products and in the products that you might offer. And so that kind of opportunity for innovation through a sustainability lens is one of the benefits we see. It might be an efficiency benefit, or it might be a whole new product suite that you can start to think about and start to share with clients that has only come about because you're looking at the business through this lens. But yeah, I think it's absolutely essential. This is why businesses change the way they operate. It's why they make decisions if they think there's a commercial benefit to it. And so we have to hammer that home all the time, that it is commercially beneficial and it will drive long-term success.
Yeah, some great points. I think it speaks to something we've said, and actually just to point this out, we'll be covering this in a later webinar. So do make sure you've signed up to part 2 and 3, where we will be sort of unpacking some of that idea of sustainability being a license to thrive and to deliver real kind of business success over the years ahead. So I think some really, really well made points there, Simon. Verena, I want to just come to you next, because I think one of the things that we've tried to sort of say in the little bit we've touched on already with Deepak and Kate and tried to bring out through this whole series is that, sustainability it's not just one thing. It's there's a kind of broad spectrum here. And I know that, one of the areas that you're particularly interested in is sort of thinking about nature. And so why is that sort of particularly important for advisors when they are thinking about and discussing sustainability with their clients? In other words, not just sort of having this sort of narrow focus purely on climate change, which tends to be perhaps the thing that immediately springs to people's mind, but that slightly broader kind of focus.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think maybe responding to that in kind of 4 points actually is nature is essential for human health and well-being. Nature loss can actually create health risks. And further, there's a really strong connection. Thanks, some background noise. There's a really strong connection between lifestyle choices, environmental impact, and human health. And then lastly, responding to nature loss can actually reduce health risk as well and create resilience. So first, why is nature so essential for human health? It is really, I think Simon already mentioned it, nature is underpinned and provides the so-called essential ecosystem services for humans, both directly and indirectly. Directly, mostly for if you think about fresh water, nutritious food, it regulates disease outbreaks or reduces the risk of disease outbreaks, or it also reduces the physical hazards, including from climate change. So if you think about our healthy ecosystem, our healthy coastal ecosystem, that can reduce the risk of storms. But then also nature underpins health indirectly through the healthcare system. So interestingly, the healthcare system is quite dependent on natural resources, especially in the pharmaceutical and like medical supplies, right? Some interesting stats that 70% of cancer drugs and 75% of antimicrobials are derived from natural resources. And then obviously human health, as we all know, and well-being is not just physical health, it's also mental health. And nature can significantly impact our mental health positively. So it also provides a sense of being and like cultural values. There's actually a study that suggests that 120 minutes per week in nature is associated with enhanced well-being. And GPs in Canada are prescribing time in nature as a response to mental health and physical health issues. But then secondly, obviously nature loss can impact human health and well-being. And I think as an advisor, that's something that we should be aware of as well. About 75% of emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic. So they are originating from animals and are transmitted to humans. So we obviously had experience with COVID-19 in that regard. But a combination of factors are really exacerbating that risk now. Habitat destruction increases human-wildlife interaction, climate change drives virus migration, and then obviously antibiotic overuse and pollution and can basically result in antimicrobial resistance, limiting our response to those new emerging diseases. There is actually a study in the UK that looked into this scenario and suggests that the UK could lose 12% of its GDP under zoonotic disease and AMR-related scenario. But also for, I know there's corporate business advisors here on the line as well. For companies, employees and workers might be exposed to climate change, such as extreme heat, obviously, but also might face other nature-related hazards in the future in specific locations or industries. We have seen examples in agriculture and aquaculture space already on this. And then the third point I really wanted to make are this really clear connection between lifestyle choices as a driver of nature loss and also a factor for health, which is very clear in our food systems. So our current food systems are, especially our overconsumption of animal-based products, is the main driver of biodiversity loss, depletion of water resources, and also impacts our climate, while it does not deliver the nutrition that people need. There's actually a study that suggests that the hidden cost of ill health and environmental degradation of the current food system amounts to about $15 trillion annually. So it has really prompted a kind of new way of viewing economic, social, and ecological aspects of the sustainable development goals as well. And it's argued that sustainable and healthy foods are directly or indirectly connected with all of these goals. And food is basically the strongest lever to optimize human health and environmental sustainability on Earth. And then my really last point I wanted to make here, it's important for us, I think, to understand that responding to nature loss is really not only supporting environmental goals, but can also contribute to preventing and reducing health risks to individuals and building resilience in society. So there are significant opportunities. Insurers and advisors can act as stewards and advocates for nature. For example, advocating for sustainable use of resources in the healthcare industry, sustainable consumer choices, whether that's sustainable diets such as planetary health diets or more sustainable active modes of transport, but also advocating for investment in nature-based solutions in urban environments, which offers a variety of health benefits such as green and blue spaces, contributing to climate regulation, reducing heat stress and air pollution, or community gardens that can increase access to more nutritious food as well. So that's why I'm very passionate about that topic.
And I think it's really interesting that drawing that kind of connection between health, nature, and sustainability. And I think making it something that therefore feels a little bit more relevant to the conversation that advisors are having. Because I want to tackle a question, Deepak, this is one I might put to you that Matthew has asked in the chat. So thinking about some of these kind of high level issues, how do they trickle down to the conversations that an advisor is having with their clients? And Matthew said, it feels relevant to him when he's talking to his clients about sustainable investing and the like. How can somebody who's advising clients on health and protection insurance, how does it trickle down to their level?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. I did spot it and made me smile a little, because the one thing we don't want is kind of high level platitudinal statements. These are important to set the context, to say it is about making the world a better place, the 17 goals, etc. But then how does it, as you say, filter down? And most apparently, financial services, it's very easy to connect to ESG funds and sustainable investing and other products. With life and health insurance, it's maybe a little bit harder. But actually, if you think about the definition of sustainability, about making the world a better place, and SDG 3, which is about good health and well-being, so that's where the link comes in. Can we drive people towards more preventative products? Traditional life insurance, we believe is broken. You underwrite someone up front and then you let them go for the next 25, 30 years. Actually, we think there's a better way, and that better way is to actually take those modifiable risks, those lifestyle risks, lifestyle choices that people make, and actually try and keep them healthier and make them healthier. And that in itself is a sustainable product type. And there is a really interesting paper. Again, it was written by the United Nations. It was called Health is Our Greatest Wealth. And the whole emphasis of that paper was around sustainable life and health insurance products. And it's got 7 key themes. We won't cover it all today, and a 4-point plan as to how do we make insurance products, life and health products specifically, more accessible, more affordable, and more relevant. And this talks to exactly what we're talking about. And that can help us sell more new business, give greater retention, and enhance the value of brokers' businesses and our businesses, and for us to do good in society. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. And I guess just thinking kind of practically as well. So, how was Vitality thinking about our own kind of approach to sustainability? How has that evolved over the years, and what lessons maybe can we draw from that advisors might be able to kind of practically use as well, or think about in their own businesses or their own conversations?
Sure. It's something we cited within the video very briefly, but it's about kind of embedding sustainability across the whole business. It's not a standalone thing. So we have a very, I'd say, small team in the sustainability area at Vitality. There's 3 of us, but I never say there's 3. I say there's thousands of us, because everybody across the business owns sustainability. So we've got an approach where we've identified 3 core pillars. So first is alignment. So it's embedding sustainability across our business. That's education, awareness, training. The really important point that Kate made, which was actually perfection in this world is the enemy of progress. And actually we do what we can. We're not preaching to anybody to say, do this or switch to an EV or become vegan or sell these products. It's more, here's information that can actually be beneficial for everyone, or shared value model. It's good for customers, it's good for society, it's good for us as an insurer, it's good for everyone in the value chain. So that first pillar is about embedding it in our culture. Actually, from a climate perspective, reducing our emissions operationally, doing the easy stuff that you can, switching to renewable energy, etc. But then moving to digital by default. And 1 or 2 examples of that are the way in which we deliver healthcare. So we're delivering healthcare through Vitality GP, virtual musculoskeletal and physiotherapy, virtual mental health care, and the outcomes from those are really very positive. We see a downward trend in face-to-face appointments, freeing up much needed capacity for those people that have those acute needs, and actually giving greater access for people by virtual means. So that's kind of one pillar. And also where we invest our money. We've actually made some tremendous changes just around our investments, and are investing in businesses that are more carbon friendly, but also more socially responsible. So it's thinking about communities, thinking about all of the stakeholders in the value chain. We aim to be an exceptional partner and an exceptional partner within the value chain. The second pillar is all around influence. So we're working very closely with all of our partners around understanding their ESG credentials. We've mapped them on a risk matrix and working with them to say, you're doing great, fantastic, we can learn from you. Other companies maybe not doing so well, and say, well, what are we going to do to kind of help shift that? So if everyone does that within the value chain, the multiplicative effect of that is significant. And then finally, the third pillar is impact. So through our products and services. So very briefly, an example is we've partnered with Music Magpie. You can recycle your Apple Watch. That's one example, but there are many examples within that frame. So there's a lot that we're doing. And clearly, we've also set our targets to become net zero and carbon neutral, and we're well on track for that.
Yeah. I think some really interesting stuff there. Look, we're only really scratching the surface today, and time is unfortunately against us for this discussion. And like I said, it really is just we're just sort of touching on these issues. So I would definitely encourage everyone who's tuned in today, if you haven't done so, definitely sign up for parts 2 and 3 of the sort of complete series. I just want to sort of try and wrap up today. I wonder if I can, somebody's asked a question. I wonder if I can just put this to all of you and also just get you to sort of share a kind of closing remark on what you'd ideally like anyone watching today to take away. So the first part of the question, someone said, can you give an example of at least one action that you've taken personally to reduce your carbon footprint? So perhaps I'll just get each of you just to share kind of your one action or one tip that anyone watching can take away today to reduce their own sort of personal carbon footprint. And also just kind of your key message, I think, to anyone tuning in. There'll be a real mix of people. There'll be some people perhaps for whom they're still a bit skeptical about sustainability and climate change. It's maybe something that they're not quite convinced of. And there'll be some people that are kind of dyed in the wool and very much kind of engaged in this. So I think sort of those 2 points just to kind of wrap up. So Lisa, I'll come back to you just on that, if I may, please.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. So I think for me, it's walking more. If I can walk rather than drive somewhere, it's fantastic for the planet. It's fantastic for me, for my health. So yeah, that's definitely my one very small thing I recognize, but the one thing that I do personally, or one of the things. And yeah, I think my key takeaway to you as advisors who've taken the time to tune in, it's really connected back to everything we've been hearing today. I think there's a great opportunity for you to play a role to demonstrate care beyond that insurance policy itself. So confidently discussing some of those health and wellness services that are available to people, or even having those difficult conversations during times of diagnosis for conditions like cancer, and seeing what support can be available for people there. And being equipped to have those conversations and doing that as part of your day-to-day, there is a link back to sustainability there, helping good health and well-being. So that would be what I would encourage the advisors and all of you tuning in today to do as a way to contribute towards sustainability.
Fantastic, thank you. Simon, I'll come to you next.
I'm going to pick up on Verena's point that food is the biggest lever we can pull. And if as an individual you want to have an impact, it's one of the best areas to look. So as a family, and I think that's an important distinction, because it's not just your individual impact, but your opportunity to influence others. We've now moved to a Meaty Mondays regime, where we flipped the Meatless Mondays idea, and we only have meat on Mondays now. And it's gone down brilliantly. Everyone's very happy about it. We feel healthier. And as a kind of unexpected benefit, it means that when we're entertaining, usually on a Thursday or Friday or Saturday, that's now by default vegetarian. We weren't expecting that, but everyone that we're kind of having to stay or working with is eating vegetarian. So that's been brilliant. I think we haven't quantified the impact, but if we were, I think that would be one of the biggest things that we could do in terms of managing both our nature restoration and our climate impact. And I think, following that through into the audience here, there's a sense that they have, these advisors have a very small operational footprint, very small sustainability impact. And it's true, these are small businesses. They're not selling food or oil or hydrocarbons or anything like that. And so we need to think beyond the operational impact and into the influence impact, this kind of way that we can work with all of the stakeholders that we touch in order to help them live more sustainable lives. And that isn't just clients, that's also our employees, the people we work with. It's also the peer group that we're operating within. It's also the local authorities, it's the regulators. There are lots of ways that we can be advocates, that we can be influencers, that mean that our impact is orders of magnitude greater than our operational impact. And that's where we can feel like we're having the biggest influence. And so I'd encourage everyone to think about what those opportunities are in order to maximize their impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can all make a difference, can't we? Verena, I'll come to you and then Deepak.
I'm going to make it very brief. I follow Simon's point there on our food systems. So my personal choice, I think 12, 15 years ago, was going plant-based. And I think hopefully has a good environmental impact as well, but also a really significant positive health impact for me. So I'm very excited about that decision. And then maybe just to reflect as well, I'm currently in Canada. Wildfires are raging, and I have actually had a few conversations with people, whether with asthma, chronic health issues, who are really struggling with these impacts as well. And that's a third summer in a row now. So it is really something that's on top of people's mind right now, of individuals' mind right now, and it affects them mentally as well, right? It has a mental toll, the fear of every year, potentially another issue and another health impact through that. So I kind of want to just call out Simon's point there as well, the engagement with communities, with customers, or even corporates to really bring this on top of their minds as well. This is not something that we are looking forward into the future. It's really something that we are experiencing already now and will accelerate as well.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point for me. And then Deepak, finally, I'll come to you.
As you might expect, all of the above, walking lots more, I'm vegetarian, just had solar panels fitted, haven't taken a flight for a year. So, but non-preachingly, it's kind of conscious decision making, but not kind of guilting anyone into it. It's kind of awareness. So that's the first question. I think on the second, recognizing that it's more than just climate. That question really struck me to say more than high-level statements. How does it affect me as a life and health advisor? And we're going to build on that in the next two webinars. It's really, really important because we want you to engage. We want to you to be advocates and ambassadors to sustainability, but not separately. It's part of your advice process, and we really want to give you that. So this is the very beginning. So please do join us for webinars number 2 and 3. It's going to get more and more detailed and hone in on specifics. So thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, look, we've just scratched the surface today. We could have discussed this for a lot longer. So unfortunately, we do have to wrap it up there. I'm going to just throw up one final poll just to kind of gauge our audience's level of confidence, not necessarily after today, but just their level of confidence in general when it comes to discussing sustainability. And at this point, really, it just leaves me just again to stress, as Deepak said, that if you haven't already, do make sure you sign up to the next webinar, which will be taking place next Thursday, same time at midday, and then the third webinar the following week, again, same time. So when the webinar closes in a moment, there will be a link to sign up if you haven't done so already. Then please do, and we'll also be sharing the full recording afterwards as well, so you can watch it on demand. We'll be issuing CPD certificates where relevant. We'll do that at the end of once the whole series is finished. But at this point, it really just leaves me to thank our panelists today. It's been fantastic. I think some really interesting takeaways there. So thank you so much, Lisa, Verena, Simon, and of course, Deepak. It's been great to have you on. Hope everybody tuning in has found this helpful and interesting. And definitely, I think as hopefully the main kind of takeaway is obviously just engaging in this is such an important thing. We can all make a difference. And and a little bit more kind of collective action, having those conversations with your clients is really, really important. And there are some really big opportunities here. It's an issue that's not going to go away. And as we'll unpack in those following webinars, there's some real kind of business opportunities. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you on next week's webinar. And again, thank you very much to all of our speakers. So have a lovely rest of your day, and thanks for tuning in. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Everyone.